好的，好的，现在有声音的，有。
现在可以听吗？你好 ，Hello，你好，我是鲍蕾。
哦，你好，你好，我是朱芙蓉第一个 speaker。
哦，你好，你好，朱教授。
你可以过一会儿让我 share screen。
可以的，可以的。那可以的。过会儿你 share screen，你可以就是直接 share 就行。我这边没有要 share 的 screen。
现在不让
嗯，
写，因为你现在已经有一个在系统上扫了。
对，这个朱教授，我觉得你不用担心，他这个会有会务工作人员，他会控制着这个线上，他会过会儿到您的时候，他会自动的就能给您把这屏幕让开。嗯，
好的，好的。
嗯，
那个视频是给锁住了是吧？所以说
视频没有锁住，现在视频还在放。哦，对对，是我看看，对，现在打不开那个摄像头。
好，好的。
我想可能过会儿在2点以后，就能依次的能打开了。
因为我2点以后还有一个2点半以后还有一个其他的一个校内的事务，所以我做完报告我就要走了。
哦，那知道了，那就是我们争取让您按时开始。
对对对对，
好的，好，
谢谢。
那好。
唱首歌呀。我爱你，有一口啊。我爱你，没风尘，却超难分。你没到成。
这样子。
怎么说？
都到了吗？结束分享。朱思荣到了，然后鲍雷也到了，王成珠呢？王也到了。喂，鲍雷老师，您能听见现场的声音吗？
可以听到，能听到我的声音吗？
可以听到，可以听到。第一位嘉宾这个朱老师已经上线了，已经在线了。然后下面四川农业大学的严静老师呢，他这边时间是不太可以的，所以那个是录制了视频， 我们这边会现场工作人员会播放视频，您介绍完以后呢，我们这边会播放。陈爱亮老师呢也是这样情况，他这边的话，您介绍完以后，我们这边会给他播放陈老师的这个视频。
那请问就是这些老师他有视频在，他本人也会在回答问题吗？
严静老师好像是不行，没有在是不行的时间。陈老师应该是会之后应该会上线的。
好的，那请问现场大约有多少人？今天现场预计会有多少人呢？
现在因为时间还早，之前人不是很多，
哦，好的。
OK。然后那个梁梁老师呢，现在暂时还没有上线，他可能应该还会晚一点。
是的，因为梁老师他的是下一个，可能3点半之后就可以。
哦，那个陈爱亮老师已经在线了。
哦，好的，
哎，你好，哎，
陈教授您好，我是鲍磊。
哎呀，鲍院长您好，
那个鲍老师，您可以试一下您的那个摄像头。
好嘞
，Hi Spray。是的，还有54人，他说鲍老师不听不懂。哎，鲍老师，能看到，能看到，可以看到，可以看到，哎。
那我们就2点整正式开始就行，是吧？
好的，鲍老师，那个咱们2点整准时开始吧。
好的。那我就开始吧。各位参会代表。
So I'd like to kickstart now. Dear representatives, good afternoon. Welcome to our afternoon session of our today's conference. So this is about the new analytical technologies and data analytical methods and its usage. So I am Bao Lei, working as the head of Nestle Food Safety Research Institute. And analysis represents a very important part in the whole process. So this can deliver the reliable results, which will be conducive for the following up compliance, management, monitoring, and controlling. And this will offer the technical support for us. So today, we are gathering here for the discussion of the latest development of the technologies and analytical methods. But first of all, let's welcome Sir Zhu Furong, Professor Zhu, Department of Physics from Hong Kong Baptist University, share with us about traceable fruit quality detection technology and IoT solution. And Professor Zhu works as the Deputy Dean of the Physics Department and also working as the Director of the Advanced Materials. Now let's welcome Mr. Zhu to share with us. Welcome.
谢谢鲍主任，那我就用英文演讲。First of
Thank you
all,
for your introduction.
the organizer for inviting me to speak today. My name is Furong Zhu from Department of Physics at Hong Kong Baptist University. The title of my talk is Traceable Food Quality Detection Technology and IoT Solution. This is the outline of the talk. First of all, I will discuss a technique called visible blind sensor. Basically, it detects the near-infrared light without the influence of ambient light, visible light. And then we will use this visible blind NIR detection technologies for measuring the sweetness or the sugar contents in fruits without invasive or destructive detection. I'll give you a brief overview of the technologies and also the prototype, the portable visible blind non-invasive detection prototype that we've developed in our group. And I'll give you a quick overview of fruit detection technologies and also the integration of this technology with IoT. And I'll also provide some of the initial products and services, a startup company as a result of this technology and then established with the support of Hong Kong Baptist University. And then give you a quick summary of the work. If you're not in the field, and then let me give you a quick briefing or introduction on the so-called sensors or photo detectors. Essentially, the photo detector devices responds to a broad range of incoming light with different wavelengths. Typical sensor, photo sensor rely on silicon, for example, silicon devices, germanium or 3,5 compound semiconductor devices. They respond to different portions of the incoming light for different applications. For example, your mobile phone camera largely using silicon-based the sensor that responds to the visible light, so you can take full color images in the visible wavelength range. Whereas for many other applications where you need to detect near infrared light for various purposes, for testing, for characterizations. Whereas for sugar molecules, for example, in the fruits, those molecules respond to the near infrared light. Therefore, by precise determination and measuring the near infrared light is very critical for estimating the sweetness in the fruits. But most of the photo detectors, they are broadband, so they don't discriminate the wavelengths. They basically any type of incoming electromagnetic waves within the range, they respond to the light. Or if you want to use this technology for measuring the sweetness of the fruits, where you need to filter unwanted light. In the background of this work, our group develops various types of photo detector. One of the important progress that we made is able to develop a detector that is capable of measuring selectively the spectrum of the incoming light. For example, in these devices that we developed that can measure or detect visible light and near-infrared light selectively or separately without interference. Because this is not a forum for discussing the device physics. For those of you, if you're interested, please read this article. This is an open source article, discuss the principles, operation mechanism, details, and performance of dual mode or dual band photodetector. This is one of the first type of such kind of photodetectors that enables to detect visible light and near-infrared light or different electromagnetic waves in different ranges selectively by changing the polarities of the bias applied across the devices. This is very useful. And actually, we use this concept for measuring the near-infrared reflection and absorption from a fruit without the interference of ambient light. That means we also call this as a visible blind NIR detection. A little bit of device explanation, and suppose that we have the device is facing to the incoming light, and the incoming light has different portions, cover very broad ranges, including visible light and the near-infrared light. For example, 460 nanometer, which is visible light, and 770 nanometers is infrared light, which is invisible by the human eye. And when the device is facing to the incoming light, and it detects the visible light in one portion of the device and detects the near-infrared light in the second portion. So by changing the polarity of the biases that apply across the devices, and we are able to use these technologies to measure or to detect the desired portions of incoming light without interference of the other portion. For example, measuring the near-infrared light. This is the example. So I here give you a quick explanation of how it works. Say we have HKBU, that stands for Hong Kong Baptist University, abbreviation of our university. And suppose this is the media, and part of the materials inside this media, which is an near-infrared absorbing materials. And the near-infrared absorbing materials embedded in the media, for example, sugar molecules in fruit that embedded in the media. And then using this technology, it is possible to detect the NIR or near-infrared absorbing materials without interference of the non-NR absorbing material. Likewise, if you select the visible mode of the detection, then these devices can only see the visible absorbing materials that embedded in the media mixed with the NIR absorbing and near-infrared absorbing. So in other words, in the layman term, this technology enables us to see unseen. For example, NIR is one label, and if you cover with black marker, the one that you use to write on the whiteboard, it blocks partially NIR. So therefore, under visible mode range, the detector is not able to see the information that's blocked or covered by the marker. But you switch it to near-infrared mode, because the marker usually they are not absorbing, NIR absorbing. So essentially, you can see through the things behind. So the same concept and idea, this technology is able to detect the absorptions of sugar molecules in fruits, which is invisible to the human eye, and then picks up the changes in the absorption in the near-infrared light by the fruits. Then using algorithm, and then we are able to predict the sugar level, because the sweetness of fruits is related directly to the concentration of sugar molecules in the fruits. So by predicting or measuring the changes or variations in absorption of near-infrared light by the sugar molecule, sucrose molecule, fructose molecules, for example, in the fruits, then we're able to estimate the concentration of sugar molecules, therefore determine the sweetness of the fruits without destructive measurements. Okay, so maybe this is known to many people. This is a typical examples of near-infrared absorption spectra measured for an apple, for example. And different fruits will have a different absorption spectrum. This is mainly due to the absorptions of sugar molecules, glucose molecules, fructose molecules. They have a different characteristics peaks in different wavelength range, near infrared, particularly in wavelength range. By measuring the spectrum, then it is possible to analyze using spectrometer. This is commonly used technique using spectrometer to predict, to calculate the sugar contents. But the spectrometer usually is very expensive. This is typically good for lab tests because the spectrometer itself, the nature of the technology, it is very sensitive to ambient light interference. So therefore, before this has been used, some calibration is required. This is typically for research, for lab uses, for designed for specialists. And there are different types of spectrometers that are available in the market, portable, desktop, and a standalone system in the laboratory. Usually they are very expensive, and it is done in the laboratory. But in the reality is that in the field, where the measurements need to be carried out outdoor, for example, in any environment outdoor, even in the sunshine, it is not possible to carry out those lab type of heavy equipment in outsides. So they really look for a kind of a technology called a visible blind NIR detection. This is where the dual mode photo detectors or sensor that we developed can play a role for application in visible blind near infrared photo detection technology. And then in fact that we use this technology integrated together with the light sources that allows us to predict or measure the characteristics peaks of the sugar molecules and monitor the changes in the intensity or the absorption of those molecules in the testing fruits. So by then we're able to measure the near-infrared absorption spectrum or refraction spectrum, or diffuse the refraction spectrum of an apple, and then correlate it with its sugar level. For example, we can juice it and then measure the soluble contents in the juice. Therefore, by correlating between the NIR spectrum and the absolute the sweetness or the sugar level in the juice, and then develop an algorithm to correlate them so that establish a database for predicting the sweetness of the fruits without damaging it. Okay, so this is the portable near-infrared detector that we developed for measuring the spectrum of the sugar level. It is very lightweight. It is because it's a built-in visible blind technology. So therefore, it provides very fast and high sensitivity. The data that measured were transferred through to the mobile devices, your mobile phone, for example, a cloud server, and or maybe even laptop through Bluetooth. So therefore, the detector itself is very lightweight. It provides various advantages because it does not use a spectrometer, so therefore it is ambient light free. Can be used in any environment, outdoor or even in the sunshine. And based on the new algorithm, and we pick up the characteristics peaks. So the system itself is much simpler, lighter, and it's easier for application, operation. And mainly this is designed for non-specialists, so that farmers or fruit growers, they can benefit through using this technology for monitoring the growth status of and the quality of their fruits in the field. So this is the overall working mechanism. This actually is a real QR code. If you use your mobile phone to scan this, then you get this information to mimic the monitoring the quality of the fruits. So in future, the fruits may have a QR code instead of just a brand. Then when you scan the message or the information will transfer to the cloud through Bluetooth. And then the calculation will be done in the cloud server and then transmit the data through mobile apps to your mobile phone. So you get the information instantaneously from the fruit quality. So once you generated the QR code, it will stick on the fruits and then carry forward. So the end user, they can use their mobile phone to scan the QR code and know the history of the fruit, when and where they were picked up, and what was the sugar level, sweetness, nutritious level, etc. So that provides very good information for users, for retailers, for growers, and so that we have a data-driven smart system for foods. And this technique can also be applied for vegetables as well. So currently we have already developed a mobile phone. It has different interfaces. This is the Chinese version, and we also have the interface for English. So essentially, the mobile phone supports iOS 12 plus and also Android 9 systems. Any mobile phone that has that kind of system will support. And the system provides several features. One is for general user feature, for researchers, and also for high information display. There was a website. This is one of the idea that we have, that so that with this wireless non-invasive measurements, so actually allows the farmer to predict or monitor the fruit quality or the growth states of the fruits, even they are still in the farmer, in the orchard. That's so monitor, provide the direct data, and so they can predict the harvest date, for example, or by monitoring the sugar and acidity levels without actually damage the fruits. And the same information can also be used for the retailers for sorting. Currently, the fruit sorting is primarily based on the shape, appearance, and the weight, for example, without providing the sweetness information. With this technology, it's possible that in future, the fruit sorting can also include the sweetness, sugar levels, and then each fruits in the end will eventually have a QR code. An end user can scan the QR code and know when and where the fruits are picked up and the quality of the fruits. Okay, so we feel that there's a huge market for this technology to be used and incorporated, especially for precision agriculture technologies and the digital time, and also for the smart agriculture, all the way from cultivation. For example, you can adjust the supplement and nutrition according to the growth of the fruits, and you can also diagnose in the fruit growth and the maturity, and to provide a prediction on when the fruits will be ready for harvest. And then in the logistic region, then also provide you a quality control, so that you can you can sort the fruits according not just only the appearance, the colors, as well. You can also include real the quality, sweetness of the food. That's very useful. So here there's a quick video that I'm basically showing you the technology. I think.
How do you create the perfect farm? A fundamental question you may have is to know when is the best time to harvest. How would you sort and grade fruits? How would you estimate shipping time to ensure quality and freshness? And how do you determine the best quality produce to the market? The next level grading of your fresh produce is about seeing the unseen. Through a more efficient grading process, it delivers both accuracy and higher profits. But how does this work? A traditional method is done by a fruit grading machine, however this is usually expensive, time-consuming, and not portable. Introducing Crimson Vision's cutting-edge traceable fruit quality detection solution. Using our advanced patent near-infrared technologies, we are able to detect various characteristics of fruits. Near-infrared light is first absorbed, diffused and reflected inside the fruit. Our sensor then picks up the signal with high sensitivity and accuracy. By measuring the absorbance after diffused reflection, and comparing that with our own database through an algorithm, we can calculate the fruit quality, like sugar content, water content and acidity. The measured data then uploads to the cloud server. This solution is cost-effective, fast, and can be used anywhere, even used outdoor in sunshine. With our Internet of Things solution, it allows businesses to control the best harvest times, improving accuracy and estimating the time from packaging to transportation, and finally to reach the market and end consumer with the best quality. Customers are able to scan the QR code on these fruits and receive a comprehensive list of fruit data such as when it was harvested, its sugar level, water content, etc. With our accurate, affordable, portable and smart fruit quality detector, we hope to deliver the best possible solution for the agri-tech industry. Crimson Vision. Empowering industries with instant portable material analysis solutions through NIR and IoT technologies.
Yeah, thank you. This is a quick briefing of the product. The company, startup company, basically grown up with Hong Kong Baptist University. We provide various solutions. So this is the prototype technology that detector that I mentioned just now in the video. It's very small and with the Bluetooth. Essentially, this only has detection and the Bluetooth to transfer the data through wireless to your mobile phone devices or laptop or cloud. So therefore, this can be very effective. We provide various resources. So this is the quick summary of my presentation today. And I discuss about the NIR detection technology and visualizing technology for precise, rapid, and stable, traceable information really provided to in the agriculture industry. The technology can also be used for other food authentications, even for Chinese medicine, for example. Really provides a smart agriculture and IoT solutions and to ensure the quality. And so I would like to end my talk and leave some time for questions and to thank my group members. Most of them, they are my PhD students. This is me and on my campus. And this work was initially supported by University Grants Committee in Hong Kong and Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Commission. And recently, this startup company has also been admitted to the Hong Kong Science Park for developing the technology for commercialization. So with that, and I will thank all of you, the organizer, and you to listen to this presentation. So I'll be more than happy to answer any question that you have. Thank you.
非常感谢朱教授您。
Thank you very much, Professor Zhu, for your excellent presentation. The technology you developed can be practically utilized in the products. It is a solution for the agriculture industry. So we have several minutes left. Any questions from the audience, no matter online or offline audience? Any questions?
问中文也可以的啊。
问中文。
Any question in Chinese or in English?
如果有问题的话，可以
If you have any question, you may use the microphone. You can raise your hand to propose it.
参会的同事可以通过主持人来转达，都是可以的。
Any questions?
线下没有问题。
No question.
朱教授，我有一个问题，就是您现在
Professor Zhu, I have a question. The technology you introduced is mainly applied to fruits. So I want to know if you have any other applications or in any other fruits or food, for instance, milk or dairy products.
谢谢那个鲍主任非常好的。
Thank you, Ms. Bao, for your question. The technology can be used to detect milk powder. In the past, we have the poisonous chemical, which is called the triplocanamide. And this chemical can also have the characteristic peak and full absorption, and so that it is suitable for application for our detector. And we can detect this kind of chemical from the milk powder. Since I'm a professional in physics, and this is my first time to participate in this meeting and in the CIFSQ. So I was introduced by my colleague, and he heard my speech in university, and he encouraged me to participate in this conference. Of course, due to COVID-19, I'm not able to participate the meeting on site. Otherwise, I would bring the equipment here on site so that we may take a look at it. So I hope that my colleagues and experts in food industry can know more about this technology, and I also hope to cooperate with my colleagues in mainland to use this technology in other areas, no matter in fruits. And in one teacher from Shandong Agriculture and Forest University contacted me, and he hoped that this equipment can be inserted into soil so that it can detect the moisture and the nutrients in the soil and to predict the growth of the crops. Now there is a lack of real-time monitoring. Of course, we can apply this equipment in the field, but we need cooperation with the colleagues and experts in the industry to apply it to different areas. Thank you, Professor Zhu. We look forward that your technology and product can be applied in wider area.
好的，那我们就开始第二个演讲。
Now we'll invite our next speaker. She is Professor Yan Jing from Sichuan University, Agriculture University. Her topic is application of spectroscopic technique in combination with chemometrics for detection, adulteration of extra virgin olive oil in China and Europe. Professor Yan will share with us through the video speech.
现在听不到声音，请再调整一下声音。
来进行深入的这个讨论，互相学习。谢谢。
鲍老师，您稍等一下，这边我们重新再结束一下。
Sorry, technical issue. Please wait a sec. Good afternoon, I'm from Sichuan Agricultural University. I'm Yan Jing. So first of all, I feel sorry because I cannot be present on site due to the pandemic containment policies. So I have to present you online. And today my topic is the application of the spectroscopic technique in combination with chemometrics for detection adulteration of extra virgin olive oil in China and Europe. So first of all, I'd like to walk you through the adulteration of olive oil. So these includes 3 different types. First of all, to blend the olive oil with the other kinds of oils, including the cheap ones. For example, the oils that are cheaper than the olive oil, including peanut oil, sunflower oil, and rapeseed oils. So different varieties would be possible to be blended with the extra virgin. The second is to mix it with the lower grade olive oil. For example, the refined olive oil, ROO, and the pomace olive oil, PO, will be possible to be blended. And third one is replacement, which means to replace with vegetable oil or the other chemical compounds in it to adulterate. But this would be very easy to be discovered. So it will add the chemical compounds for the coverage. For example, in the rapeseed oil, sometimes it will add the it will add the chlorophyll to make it look very green. So this is a kind of adulteration, but how to detect and how to identify that this is a fraud or violative? So we can take different approaches. Here, I have listed the conventional approaches, including the conventional parameters, detection of a peroxide value, acid value, iodine, fatty acid, and sterol content, etc. Also, we can detect the density and viscosity. So currently, the spectral analysis is mostly commonly used. We have various of the instruments for analysis, including infrared Raman spectroscopy, fluorescence, hyperspectral or terahertz. In addition to spectral analysis, we have another particularly sensitive approach, which is DNA analysis. This is based on the DNA molecule to have sequencing and analysis. So we can get the core information of this molecule and identify whether it's a genuine or not. So now I will mainly focus on the spectrum technology. The edges of this technology is this is non-destructive, so no need to contact the product itself, and no need to process the samples. Secondly, its speed of analysis is very rapid. So this instrument can set the multi-point for the gathering and the multi-channel instantaneous. And thirdly, these can be widely used. It can detect different types of products, including liquid, solid, semi-solid, colloidal, and the other forms of samples are all okay. This is also very fast. So this is suitable for the on-site or field analysis. So to short the time of analysis. So here, the rapid detection refers to the whole process from the beginning of gathering the samples and then the internal detection and the analysis on the basis models. So it's really fast throughout the whole process. So this is a concept we're discussing here. And considering these four different features in the application of the spectrum, this is really widespread. Our ultimate goal of this research is to figure out the difference between extra virgin and adulterated cheap products. What are the differences between the two? So how to detect the difference? We can use the spectroscopic technique in combination with chemometrics. We can combine the two techniques for detection. And secondly, our materials and methods. So first of all, our materials. As you can see on the diagram, these are the specific raw materials of us, the provenance of them. So we have procured from Europe and China. In Europe, the provenance country includes Spain, Italy, Greece. The extra level. We also have sourced the relatively low-grade olive oil from Spain and Italy, including refined ones. In China, we only source the extra virgin from the northern part of China and the southwest, including Chongqing and the South Fujian, because their weather condition and soil condition are suitable for the growth of olive. So the products produced by these three provenances enjoy really high quality. So our goal is to make comparison. Which products enjoy higher quality and what are the differences of adulteration? So in the earlier stage, we have 30 samples and we carry out the detection on the authenticity, cover the chemical and the physical parameters to determine whether this is a real product. Then on different grades, we test the proportion of adulteration. Among the 30 samples, 14 from China and 16 from Europe. And in terms of the ratio, 0%, 2.5%, 5%, 15, 25, and 50%. Lower grades mixed into the optimal grades, extra virgin. So we use a Fourier to detect and then to analyze. So afterwards, I will share with you about our analytical approach on the detection and modeling. This is about our instrument. This is equipped with ATR, attenuated total reflectance cell. It also uses the FTIR spectrometer Its resolution is 4 centimeter to the -1 per 32. We use Omnic software, and the room temperature was maintained at 22 degrees C. And all samples were evaluated in the spectral region with a wave number from 4,000 to 650, or 2.5 to 15.38 micrometers. In terms of the analytical method, our 330 samples were kept under the fridge, about 5 minus plus 0.5 degrees C. Then we will drop 0.5 gram oil sample on the ATR crystal and obtain the spectra in the absorbance mode. So first of all, we need to gather background spectrum reading, and then to have sample collection. So this is very simple. So now we have gathered data and we need to analyze data on this basis. So you can see there are altogether 5 different steps for analysis processing. The first step is we will separate the data into 60% training set and 40% validation set. For the pre-processing before modeling. This includes the abnormal data identification and deletion. This is very robust. And secondly, we need to determine the data pre-processing method. We have the data centering, auto-scaling, log, or Essensing and MSC, and first derivative and second derivative, NDSJ, etc. We can also combine different approaches. And third step is to extract the characteristic spectral band. And fourth, unsupervised classification. The most commonly used one is PCA. And last bit is the supervised classification models. To classify our models, which includes PLSDA, SVM, RF, and ANN. So this part is about the results and discussion. First of all, in the original spectrum, from 4,000 to 650, different brands, different origins, and different batches have discrepant absorption, not obvious by naked eyes. But with this analysis, you can see that around the 3005, it has unsaturated carbon link, CH, the vibration peak, and 2923 and 2852, it has the vibration peak, and 1460, the deformed vibration peak, and also the 722, it has the olefin, the curved vibration peak.
So the above is information about the vibration peaks, and after processing data, how can we reach a result? To start with, we need to use unsupervised classification to analyze the data. We mainly use principal component analysis of domestic and foreign evil samples. From the chart, we can see that the first principal component accounted for 96.3% of total data information, which illustrates that the contribution of the first principal component account for more than 90%, and the third principal component accounted for 0.5%. From this chart, we can see that for olive oil from different sources in China and Europe, and we can differentiate all this olive oil. Although there is overlapping, we can still see the differences in these two regions. We can also see that the European samples are more dispersed, because for European products involve 3 countries and there are regional differences. As a result, dispersion level is high. The next step is the spectrum after data processing. For original spectrum after pre-processing, we can have different results with different features. For instance, there is original spectrum and after log treatment and SNV preparation, the first deviation, the second deviation preparation. We can have different figures. In this small figure, we cannot see large difference. Therefore, we will zoom in after pre-processing. We can see different samples show great differences in the peak and the trough regions for the different adulteration ratios. So the pre-processing method can amplify the differences in the spectrum. Therefore, we can extract the regions in the spectrum with major differences as a basic data for modeling. As for results and discussion for PCA and modeling, to start with, for extra virgin olive oil or EVO or our refined olive oil, after the adulteration, we'll see the difference. It's a PCA diagram of raw data without any processing. For different mix ratio, the change is not significant. There is overlapping. And after a series of pre-processing, including the original data means centering, the data elimination, also data pre-processing, in the end, we have the scatter plot. We can see from the plot that there is certain differences among different mixed ratios. But overall, the difference is not significant, and there is also large overlap. We also need further analysis. Now we use full band data for modeling. The contribution of first principal component was 84%. The contribution of the second principal component is 99.8%. For different samples with different mixed ratios, their differences is significant, and there was a linear trend among them. We can differentiate different mixed ratios, especially the red one, which represents evil. It can be differentiated from other samples. As for the comparison between EVO and adulteration with the promised olive oil, to start with the PCA diagram of raw data without any processing, we can see that the products with different mixed ratios, they are mixed. There is large overlap. If we eliminate some of the outliers, the PCA diagram has improved, but there is still a lot of overlap. After we process the whole data, we find that with different pre-processing methods, or after eliminating some outliers, the final spectrum the trend is more obvious, and for different mixed ratios, there is the change which can be seen. As for analysis based on the models, we have 4 different models. The first one is the PLSDA. We can see the result, the best the partial least squares discriminant analysis model was generally correct in identifying samples with different percentages of adulteration. And optimal processing is a combination of auto-scaling and standard normal variable transformation. But a small number of samples were still incorrectly classified, namely at 5% and 25% of mixed ratio. The cause for such error is that maybe during the whole inspection process, there may be some manual errors in operation. Or for 5% and 25%, the dispersion level can lead to some confusion. We also use SVM and have good results. The error rate has dropped compared with PLSDA method. We also use random forest method. We can see that there is one error. It classify one EVO sample in 25% mixed ratio sample. Such error is serious. In comparison, the former 2 methods are more accurate in terms of classification. The main cause is that during the whole pre-processing, there is some missing of information. The 4th method is artificial neural network. We mainly have 4 hidden layers, and we through repetitive training, and we'll lower the error rate. The overall result is satisfactory with 4 hidden layers extracting a large amount of information hidden in the spectrum. And after comparing the 4 methods, we think that the best one is SVM. And the support vector machine model had a correct classification rate of 92.9%. Then we adulterate promise into EVO. For the 4 methods, we build models. We can see that for different mixed ratio, the classification accuracy is different. Here is the final result. We can see that the SVW still has the best performance. The accuracy rate is higher than the rest 3 models. From the results, we draw the conclusion that for olive oil, the component can affect the features in spectrum. The differences can be amplified through pre-processing. The main component, principal component analysis can further illustrate the feature changes. Then through the elimination of outliers and extraction of the feature spectrum, and we can draw the hidden information from the spectrum so that we can identify the adulteration of olive oil. The composition of olive oil affects its spectral features, and these differences can be amplified by pre-processing. So we can see that principal component analysis further reveals that the variation in spectral features due to different adulteration ratios is significant. And a brief introduction of my team, and I'm from the Sichuan Agriculture University, and our university has 3 majors, including food science and engineering, which is a first-tier undergraduate major, and we also have the food safety and quality, and which is a first-tier major in Sichuan province. We also have a new major, which is called the food nutrients and health. Under the college, we have several labs, including the key lab in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, and the agricultural products processing and nutrition health, the National Agricultural Products Quality, Safety, and Nutrition Health Science Base. We also have the Ya'an Center of National Quality Control Technology for famous, excellent, and new agricultural products. We also have provincial agricultural products processing and storage engineering. We have full-time teaching staff of 56 people, including 12 professors and 23 deputy professors. And we also have the Yangtze River Scholar, and 1 such scholar and 2 scholars enjoying a special bonus from the State Council. And for me, I'm mainly in the post-harvest processing and quality control team of agricultural products. And the team leader is Xinwen professor, and we have 3 members in the team. We have 3 professors in the team and 5 deputy professors. And our research directions, including post-harvest physiology and pathology of fruits and vegetables, construction, application of nanometer delivery system of plant protein-based bioactive components, and rapid non-destructive testing based on spectrum. And above all is my presentation, and it is unfortunate I cannot make it on site. If you're interested in my speech, please, you can add me through the WeChat, and we have the WeChat code here, and you may scan it, and we can have further discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Yan, for your sharing about your research interest and your work. And I'm wondering if Professor Yan is online. I'm sorry, Professor Yan is not online today, so we'll not arrange the Q&A session. If you have any question for Professor Yan, you may add her through the WeChat.
Next speaker from China National Center for Food Safety Risk Assessment. From the Institute of Quality Standard and Testing Technology for Agro Products, Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, Professor Chen Ailiang. He works as the director of the agro products detection. Also works as a chief for the innovative project of the institute. Now let's welcome Mr. Chen Ailiang to present us. Thank you. Can you see my screen? Yes.
我这里看不到这个界面哈，好，那我就改成放映状态，对吧？现在可以哈。那好了，那我开始了啊。
So I will kickstart now.
各位同行同仁，大家
Dear friends, dear the participants, good afternoon. It is my honor to have this opportunity and talk with you about the traceability on food. I'm Chen Ailiang from the Institute of Quality Standard Testing Technology for Agri Products, Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. So this is about the DNA tracing or traceability to empower the development of the food safety. As we know, in recent years, the food safety is very frequently happen. This is because there are lots of uncertainties in the whole process of food. So sometimes traceability is very hard to manage. Sometimes the provenance or the origins and the selling terminals are not certain. So traceability of food is quite important in our radar. So this is about the tracing of the food, which means that from the production to processing to sales and to the table, this whole process, we can investigate or to follow or to trace or track the food and the raw materials. So there are two main goals for the traceability. First is the recall of the precise food with the problems. And second, we can pass the information with accuracy to the consumers on the food so as to avoid the diffusion of the unnecessary the issues. So first of all, traceability represents a kind of approach of management for the food safety. So this will be conducive for the development of the safety and to empower the consumers to get more information. Strategy, there are two different aspects. First is upward traceability. When problems happen, we can trace it upward to the suppliers and the manufacturers, and also downward to the consumers, the end consumers. In China and abroad, in recent years, we have seen that there are different kinds of regulations and laws. For example, in European Union, now they have a variety of regulations which regulates that it should make very clear about information on suppliers and the quality of the food and the logistics information. In China, in order to secure the food safety, we have established a system of traceability as well. Since 2002, we have stipulated that the pigs, for the different types of meat, we should establish the relevant the profile management system. In 2004, we initiated the meat food traceability system. So from the air labeling to the QR code to the blockchain, now we have the whole process traceability approach. And correspondingly, now in China, we have issued the relevant standards. You can see the red parts represent the livestock related meat regulations. This is China's GB standard 40465 and the detailed requirements. So it includes the detailed requirements from slaughter to the sorting and to sales. So I'm sure that currently you're very familiar with this, and lots of companies now offer various technologies on the basis of the modern information. As you can see here, this is the pork example from the birth of the pig to the selling of the pork. The consumer can check information throughout the whole process. You might also be very familiar with this. You can scan the QR code and the market and to get the very complete information about the product. So what about the real effectiveness or efficacy? The labels claim that this is antibiotic or non-antibiotic included, or this is original steak or organic pork, or it does not contain the hormones, etc. But sometimes the consumer is still very concerned. So which means that they don't 100% trust the information on the label or on the sticker. Why? Or why not? Because our current traceability is based on information what meat it is, and the meat is does not have antibiotics, which means that we can include any information that we like to. So sometimes the fraud would happen. And let's take pork and beef as example. After slaughter of the animals and after the separation of the meat, we can't have the following up tracing of the information. So the consumers don't 100% trust this information on the label, and how to unlock the whole process, how to make it smoother. 91% of the consumers, according to the questionnaire, says that they're willing to pay extra price for higher quality and traceable beef. So if any enterprise think that this is a real traceable product, then more consumers are willing to pay extra for the real traceable meat. But our current traceability technology cannot meet their needs. So how to mind the gap? In 1996, in Europe, the mad cow disease, the outbreak, and starting from that time, they had the DNA traceability. So what is it? So these can be used for the animals or plants, because we all have DNA from birth to the farming or cultivation to slaughter to processing and to the table. This is very stable. And second, this can be used for forensic, which means that we all have our unique DNA. So we can use DNA to separate different species and different individuals. So stability and diversity are two significant features of DNA. This cannot be tempered. This is a very signature feature of the creature. So DNA is the best biomarker for traceability. And you can see from the lower right corner how to manage the traceability. From the birth of the pig, we need to do the air marker. And then after several steps in the process to the table, if any problem happens, we need to do traceability. Then we can trace it back to the sample level and to extract the DNA and to do a comparison and to check whether this comes from this pig or not. So it needs to deal with two key technologies. One is the storage of samples, and second is if any problems occur, then DNA comparison technique would also be helpful. So first of all, storage. Globally, there are three key technologies. In slaughter, we can extract a bit of blood or tissue. So this is used by Eurofins Genomics. We have developed two other. One is air marker, second is a hair DNA extraction. So hair DNA, I have reviewed previously. Eurofins extracted from blood and tissue. But blood sample is very complex. So we put the step forward. In farming, we extract the samples. This is simpler for us. But the farmers are not that willing for us to extract the blood and tissue. So hair DNA extraction would be more comfortable for the animals. And if problems occur, we can compare the DNA. There are three main technologies as well. So the same to forensic. There are three different technologies. One is SMP and STR, microsatellite. This is frequently used by forensics, and the high throughput sequencing used by Eurofins. A Canadian company used SMP. For us, we've developed SMP and STR. So briefly introduce to you about applications of traceability in the foreign countries. I have mentioned Eurofins Genomics previously. It's headquartered in Europe. Now, across the world, it has various branches. This is a third-party professional detection and the authentication company. It has a subsidiary, Eurofins Genomics, offer professional food detection in a service. For example, the DNA authenticity tracker works for the authenticity and also work for the analysis and sourcing or tracing and breeding as well. So Eurofins can offer these professional services. So let's talk about the principle of the traceability. These can match the genes of the animals. It uses the fingerprint technology of genes. So after gathering of all samples, it will generate a DNA sample and a database, and then to compare the information and to manage the traceability. So this technology started from 2013. We know that in 2013, the horse meat scandal occurred in Europe. So this technology helped a lot for the detection of the fake meat. So I have review about Canada and Ireland companies. This is Identigen. They also use DNA and the barcode and the data analysis, which can accurately and precisely track the information of the beef, pork, seafood, and poultry. So it is believed that traceback of it is the most reliable solution now in the market. As I have talked to previously, the air marker, the barcode, the blockchain, etc. Among all of these approaches, traceback is the most reliable one.
We can say that from the initial sample, the DNA matching and the traceability can be done in this method. The Canadian company has iterated its technology. It is not only suitable for the whole pig or the whole cattle, and we can find out whether the meat comes from the specific pig or cattle. The Canadian company also has the batch-based technology. It means that for the meat mix, and from the mix of meat and from different animals, as they can find out which part comes from which animal specifically. For the traceability of DNA and application in overseas, for instance, Canadian company's technology has already been applied in Alberta, one pig farming company. And also in Italy, we know that the ham in Italy is famous for the high-end ham company in Italy and Europe, and they adopt the traceback technology to know about the authenticity of the meat. In recent years, due to DNA traceability technology and its feature, it becomes most reliable traceability technology. It has gained wider application. For instance, in beef, some of the geographical indicator products are in Europe, and also the quality meat Scotland and in Europe. And there are a lot of such technologies overseas. Now I want to introduce our institution, which is called the Quality Standard Testing Technology for Agricultural Products Institute. And we also have another brand, which is called the Quality Standard Research Center of Agricultural and Rural Affairs Ministry. Since 2013, we started the traceability technology for beef, for lamb, and also for pork. And there are two key technologies. And for us, the DNA sample storage, which is called the blood stain from ear tag technology. As in China's regulation for the beef and the goat, we need to have the ear tag of them when we raise or breed such animals. In order to not overburden the farmers, and we design this blood stain technology. When we have the ear tag of animals, and we just adding this small paper, and this a drop of blood can fall on this paper, and this paper can be preserved outdoor, for instance, in the farming spaces, and can be preserved for more than 1 year. 1 year later, you take out this paper and you can extract DNA from it. It will not decompose in this environment. At the same time, the such paper or filter, the cost is very low and some 0.2 RMB. So there is no extra economic burden for companies because the ear tag is regulation required. So there is no extra working load from the companies. The company will not suffer from economic burden, and we can solve the issue of the sample preservation. The second part is called the fingerprint spectrum comparison. Now, when there is issue, and we will compare and the DNA. We have two technologies. First one is STR, the second is SMP. For STR, we mainly adopted to beef. For some of the common beef brands in China, we develop 16 STR sub-technologies, and the error rate is lower than 1 divided by 10, the power of 10. It means that it is very low. The error rate is very low. Each year, China slaughters some 50 million cattle. So the technology can meet the traceability requirement for all the cattle in China. For the STR technology for pork, the error rate is even lower, 1 divided by some 10, the power of 16. For each year, China slaughters some 500 to 700 million pigs, and that technology can also meet the traceability requirement of all the pigs. for the STR, and we have the capacity to trace the origin of all the individual pig. I want to give you one example, which is the demonstration application in Kerching of China. For Kerching, it has a beef brand, and the brand has many franchise shops in Beijing. In the demonstration example, we didn't start from the ear tag because the cattle has grown up. So we just collect one blood from the cattle, and through the traceability, and as is illustrated in the chart, and we have all the information. And we also have the collection date, blood collection date, and also the code of the cattle. We can scan the QR code of the cattle, and when we go to the franchise shop in Beijing, we can still know about how old the cattle is and what feed it uses and when it was slaughtered, and we can get all the information you need. What's more, there is a code for blood. For the company, if the beef is consumed in the market and there is no problem, we don't need to do the DNA comparison. Only when there is a problem, for instance, somebody accused the company of the overuse of violative chemical and in the meat, then we need to compare whether the meat came from the original cattle, and through this technology, only when there is a problem, we need to do the DNA comparison. For instance, the Kerching beef. From the Beijing franchise store, we collected a sample, and the sample is called W15, and through the QR code, we know about the information. Then through the SMP traceability technology, we got the SMP information of the beef, which is called the beef ID card, and we have the ID number of the beef. And after acquiring such information, we come back to the company. The company would show us the original sample or the blood sample. We can see that the ID card number is the same with the beef. It proves that this beef indeed comes from the Kerching cattle initially. So through the DNA traceability technology, we can achieve the target of confirming the authenticity of the beef. There is no room for counterfeit. We can not only confirm the authenticity of the production and farming system of the company, but also improve the quality. It is quite useful for some high-end beef products, for instance, steak. And the counterfeit steak already deals a blow to the profits of relevant companies. So this system is very helpful, and whenever there is a problem, we can protect our brand. Another example of our technology, in one region, and we had the traceability of halal beef. In one region, there was a large population of Muslims, and there is a market for halal meat. It is not only about the authenticity of the meat, it is the religious issue. So technology can also be applied in the traceability of halal meat. For our technology, we apply in the company which produces halal beef specifically. Then we go to the market and we collected all the beef from this company, and we cooperated with the market regulation authority. It collected more than 20 samples which claimed to come from this company. And after our detection and through the ear tag and the blood, And out of the 200 samples, and only 171 samples were authentic, and the rest of the 29 were counterfeit. When there is issue, and the company's reputation will be dented. So in this way, and we can protect the reputation of the company, and the authority will not find trouble from this company because it is somebody else who made counterfeit products. And we had the similar issue. And one company, it is accused of the overuse of clenbuterol, but after the detection of our technology, we found that this meat was not produced by this company. And the technology can not only be used to one specific pig or cattle. What about other foods? And we want to introduce our technology, and which is called the DNA traceability and tagging technology. The technology was adopted by a Singaporean company at the earliest. The company added one DNA, synthesized the DNA into the food. On the DNA, there are many bases, and so a part of DNA is like a code, like a secret code. And if we insert the DNA part into the food, as long as you don't tell any others the formula of the DNA, and nobody will figure out. So for the DNA of cattle, it is inherent, but for other products, for instance, cosmetic products and the spirit, and we can synthesize the DNA part and insert it into the products, into the food. In this way, we can find out counterfeit products. For the Singaporean company, it extracted a DNA tag from the dairy products and inserted into cosmetic products. And it is also developing the system, a detection system based on smartphone. Apart from this company, another US company, CIFSQ, it is developing the short, non-coded and non-viable DNA part. It is not harmful to people's body because DNA is the natural part of human's body. And such a DNA tag is already approved by FDA. For the CIFSQ in the US, it already starts the technological service to all the companies, different companies in the industry. For instance, a tomato, it can put the DNA on the surface of tomato or just inserted it into the tomato. For the beef we mentioned or the pork, they have DNA themselves. But for other kinds of products like medicine or cosmetic products or the spirit, we just artificially insert DNA tag and we can have traceability accordingly. Or the DNA traceability can provide more precise traceability and into specific animal, and we can also improve the transparency of the source of food and to eliminate counterfeit and food fraud. In the competition, for instance, high-end steak, we not only have information traceability, but also DNA traceability. We can correspond to specific cattle. And in this way, we will elevate the brand and image and to improve the loyalty of customers. We can also lower the paper recording workload and improve efficiency. What's more, the investment is very little. As we mentioned, only when there is a problem, we need to do the DNA comparison. For the meat, normally it is consumed in under 3 or 1 year. Then you can eliminate all this paper filter of blood. So there is no extra cost of detection.
Last but not the least, So as I have mentioned previously, I am working for the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Our academy now has made our contribution to the formulation of China's standards for the agricultural products. And we have offered the whole set of services, and we have developed the relevant kit. We're willing to cooperate with the enterprise, the peers. So thank you very much for your time and for your patience, and very happy again to have this opportunity to talk with you. Any questions? Thank you, Professor Chen, for your sharing. This is a very inspiring talk. Due to stressful time, maybe we only have time for one question, if any. We have a question on site. Thank you, Professor Chen. I think this is very interesting for me. So we can imagine that in China, the Chinese consumers do eat lots of meat. So how can this technology be with the large amount of the samples? And how about the period of storage? Let's take beef, or the high quality or high-end steak. Some countries require or regulate us to mark the air tags. So we have developed the air tags in-house, but made several upgrades in our own technology. In the process of slaughter, they would cut it off. And also you can find a QR code. So you can estimate how long you can keep it. You can store it. Well, in fact, these can be kept for over 1 year or even more than 3 years. And in terms of volume, you can use it for a large volume, even for over 1,000 cattle. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chen, again for your excellent sharing. So this concludes our first half of the afternoon session. Thank you again for your support. And also, I'd like to thank our 3 keynote speakers. Later on, we have the second half of the afternoon session. We have Mr. Liang Chengzhu from the Qingdao Customs working as the session chair. Thank you. How about take a break? Do we need to take a break or proceed? You can continue the session now. We can start the second session at 3:50, 15 minutes later. $3:50 or now? 3:50.
有10余个。好的。
咱们可以开始了吧，主持人？
可以开始了。
各位下午好啊，下半场由我来主持，我是来自于青岛海关的。
I will be here for the second half of the afternoon session. So together we have 4 experts from China, Germany, Russia, and German, and share with us about the test and the risk assessment and the evaluation, development, and also for screening. So I will be the first one to kickstart. Share with you about the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm sure that you're very familiar with the Belt and Road Initiative. This was put forward by China's President Xi Jinping, and it relates to the policy, infrastructure, trade, and fund, and also the people exchanges. So today I will mainly focus on trade. In recent years, this has achieved the remarkable results. The China CCP just completed the 20th Congress. So the Belt and Road Initiative, put forward by China, has been highly recognized by the countries alongside the road and the other countries as well. So we have seen lots of highlights and achievements, and also the further deployment of this initiative. So currently, China has altogether signed the verified operator mutual the recognition agreement with more than 30 countries and regions. And over 1/3 of the infrastructure projects alongside the Belt and Road country and regions apply the China's standards. We also have a batch of small and beautiful agriculture, medical, and poverty alleviation projects to be deployed. So the people alongside the countries enjoy lots of accomplishments. The Secretary General of the United Nations also mentioned that the Belt and Road Initiative, together with the sustainability development goals, would accelerate the agenda of 2030 sustainability and benefit the whole world. In terms of the volume of trade, in 2021, China and the other countries of the Belt and Road had about the 11.6 trillion trillion yuan for the trade, and enjoy the 23.6% growth year on year, accounting for 29.7% among China's trade volume. We see that if the trade is not smooth, then there are lots of pinpoints we will suffer. So we can see that the current problems, including low efficiency and high cost and high risks and slow development. We have summarized the main reasons. First of all, there are discrepancies in the policies, laws, regulations of the countries alongside. So we aim to seek harmony with differences. And secondly, we have the inconsistent technical standards. And third, the mutual recognition level is not high. So this process is very slow. And fourth, technical trade barrier is very complex. And fifth, the tariff barrier, uncertainties. There are the other concerns as well: geopolitics, pandemics, the wrestling of the big powers, and war. So currently, we are deploying the engineering with the 5 principles. For example, the consistent standards, and the standardization, the one-time detection, the one-time the appraisal, and achieve to gain the target of the very smooth Belt and Road. In order to do so, the duties and responsibilities of several administrations shall be enhanced. First of all, customs. They should focus on the building of the smart customs and the smart border. So with the development of this project, the mutual recognition among the countries would be enhanced. And also we can provide the helpful guidelines for risk surveillance and monitoring for the import, and build the alliance for the verification and detection, and to build the database for the detection, and to share and to jointly use the relevant techniques, standards, regulations, and law. Also, we will gather the third-party detection results as well. For China, our trade is managed by different administration. Customs, mainly the customs administration. We also have the market bureau. So we should set the consistent standards for detection, collaboration, mutual recognition. So our market administration now has published a series of regulations on the recognition. And lately, China's Commerce Ministry and NDRC just issued the latest report and proposed to include 9 regions into the pilot region for internal-external trade and integration, and to accelerate the development of the trading system and the detection innovation as well. So this will form a better platform and to boost the trade. So this part is very important, which is to boost the connection of the standards certification. We would make this more open and more transparent, to be engaged in the formulation of international advanced standards, and to support the standardization organization, and to support the third-party services, encourage third-party qualification services to boost international development. So this has been very clear by China's relevant administration. By 2025, China's standards will reach 85% of the synchronization with the international standards. And the government highly supports this undertaking. And the different industries have been deeply engaged in this. In order to achieve this goal, it is imperative for the different departments to join hands. For example, the Customs Administration, the Market Bureau, the Commerce Department, or the Commerce Ministry, and the NDRC. They have issued relevant policies, regulations. So we also aim to recruit relevant agencies and enterprises, units, associations, and teams to jointly participate in detection. And we would develop a program So in terms of the efficiency, previously I worked for the entry level, the grassroots. So I am very familiar with this. For improving efficiency, this is very important. We need to shorten the time for detection. So the customs clearance efficiency can be improved and cost can be reduced. And secondly, we need to control the trade risks. Sometimes we have different standards for raw materials and the finished products.
So there is a difference. There is a time lag between the import and export, and as a result, the companies may suffer from losses due to the time-consuming detection and testing process. For animal pandemic, and if there is no strict detection, and it is very hard to deal with. If we handle properly and before import and export, and we have the quarantine and with unified standard, and to lower potential risk of companies, we also need to lower the testing frequency of companies. For import and export, for one product, it needs to undergo 3 testings. It's a huge waste of time and cost burden for companies. After unified standard, we can have 1 testing, and there is a green light after that. So for international organization, we also need to have mutual recognition. For the China's accreditation institutions, they can go abroad and set branches overseas. Several years ago in Qingdao is one important hub of China, Japan, and South Korea free trade zone. Several years we cooperated with one largest foreign testing association of Japan. But due to pandemic and COVID-19, our exchange was upended. I was suspended in this past 2 years. In the past, we also dispatched Chinese experts to Japanese companies and train these entrepreneurs, because for each country, there will be some update in their standards and techniques and regulations. So we need to brief all these changes to foreign companies. We also invite Japanese companies each year to come to China and brief the new policies to Chinese companies about export. Through such exchanges, both sides and companies can know about the policies and changes in each other's country. As a result, and the products will be compliant with local conditions and regulations. We also have the testing of some special products in Japanese labs, and we can issue the third-party report, and then in China, the product will be cleared automatically. We also cooperated with South Korea. For instance, KTR is South Korea's largest testing institution. After multiple years of cooperation in Qingdao, the export to South Korea, including agriculture products, we use South Korean standards for testing, and then the South Korea will deem the product as qualified and clear the products. So the time for clearance will be shortened and efficiency will be improved. After multiple years of cooperation, such mode has been going smoothly. Both governments are promoting such cooperation, and the companies are happy because there is a mutual recognition, especially in food. for the report of our labs can be cleared in South Korea. This is one important direction for future development. We also cooperated with Indonesian Agricultural Ministry. We mainly Chinese customs and cooperated with Indonesian. Based on Indonesian standard, they accredited our labs and they issued a report. Then when the labs issue a report and for the products, and these products can be cleared in Indonesia. Since 2016, this model has been going smoothly and the quality of products can meet the standard of the foreign country. For China's testing institution is also adopting the method of going abroad. I have two examples. First one is the CTI. CTI is a private company in China. It has many offices in the US, Britain, and Singapore for testing services. It provides accreditation for the facilitation of trade. Another company is China Certification Inspection Group, which is a state-owned company. It was under one quarantine authority in China. Now it is an independent SOE. It has subsidiaries and in many countries, so it has a mature model which will facilitate the future expansion in the global market. Promote trade facilitation. China has issued a series of policies. The 20th Party Congress, which just completed, stated that we need to promote the high-level opening to the outside world. We need to expand the institution opening up of rules, regulations, management, and standards. We also need to build the major power of trade and promote the Belt and Road high-quality development, and to maintain the multipolar stability and in the world. Secretary General Xi Jinping also proposed important instructions in the Belt and Road, and the General Office of State Council and also issued their opinions on promoting foreign and domestic trade integration. And we also have some pilots in local levels. For China's standardization development guideline was issued in 2020, and this year, and the implementation opinion of such guideline was issued. China's standards need to be connected, need to be synchronized with the world international standards. Since there is an unbalanced development among Belt and Road countries, and China import a large volume, and for many countries, they find it hard to export their products because of different standards. We have notified this, we have noticed this issue, and we are doing concrete work to unify the standards. Under the precondition of safety, we need to guarantee development. For these policies are issued by the central government, the State Council, and the Market Regulation Authority about the inspection and testing. China Customs, the overall plan of China's free trade pilot zoom, as well as the development method of China Customs, intelligence and mutual recognition, is also doing a good job in AEO recognition. In the future, as one topic for research, we propose to build the high-quality development platform of joint construction or Belt and Road trade. And this afternoon, we also have German experts and Russian experts and to join us, because one country is not enough to build such platform. We need more countries to participate and to build such a large platform. The second topic is about building the exchange and service training platform of Belt and Road. Now, due to COVID-19 pandemic, and China Customs is training government officials and companies from different countries. Recently, 2 key universities of Russia has established Belt and Road College, and they also invited Chinese experts to train this, to lecture these students through the online conference. This is facilitating to the Belt and Road Initiative construction. The next topic is we advocate the standardization committee of Belt and Road and to build the unified standard. Now we have different standards among countries, no matter in terms of products and inspection. It is very hard for mutual recognition. China highlights the national standard and the synchronizing with international standards. Due to unbalanced development among Belt and Road countries, and we need to respect such differences in development and culture. But in terms of trade, we hope to build unified standard. We hope to join hands with major countries in the Belt and Road, for instance, Russia, and to establish standardization committee. Then we can issue inspection and testing certificate and provide the support for trade facilitation. And in the 14th five-year plan in China, we hope to include the 5-1 engineer system of China Custom into the 14th five-year plan. In the end, we need to promote the policy connection and the coordination in policy, facility, trade, finance, and people. The project has not been launched yet, and now we are recruiting experts in the research, and we have the plan for the project. If you're interested, please join us. For instance, our highlights are the standardization committee establishment, because different standards can result in many problems. Some of the products are not compliant due to discrepancies in standard. No matter import and export and can be negatively influenced. So we need to build such standardization committee. Previously, we already contacted with the Russia and the previous Soviet Union countries. Another important plan is the policy and the regulation system for trade facilitation. Now there are different policies and regulations among different countries. So we hope to enhance exchange and understanding. The next one is the trade facilitation standardization system, including standardization product techniques. Under the international standards, we hope to build the customized pathway for BRI countries. We are trying to figure out some method for such a system. Another important plan is the inspection and testing, accreditation, institution, capacity building. For different countries, the capacity level can be unbalanced. In China, under the support of NDRC and relevant national authorities and companies are trying to, institutions are trying to expand abroad. But we need to meet the standards of overseas and foreign countries. The next part is the establishment of qualification evaluation system. We need to lower the frequency of testing and we need to set the qualification standard. For different countries, they need to recognize each other and do some job.
We need to unlock the customs of the countries. So currently we have inconsistent customs standards. We need to synchronize the standards of different countries and mutually recognize the standards to alleviate the barriers of trade. So the regulation is important. And we also need to build the platform for the smooth trade training. We are now having been started to do. We have built this platform. This is in the process, and we aim to have better communication and exchanges with the countries alongside the Belt and Road. So the corresponding countries would also need to focus on the deployment application and to make due contribution to the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is from my side today. Thank you. This is our research. I hope that experts in China and abroad would find this helpful and inspiring. So this concludes my the presentation today. Thank you again. Any other questions on the floor, from the floor?
没有问题。
没有问题。这样啊，我们下面一个演讲者呢是来自德国，BFR 的联
Our
邦。
next speaker from Germany. Professor Andrew Goller, Deputy Head of National Reference Laboratory for E. coli, including very toxin-producing E. coli, German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment, BFR. Started to work for BFR since 2008. Deputy Head, focusing on E. coli research. He worked for microorganisms as well. So he focuses on the development of the research approaches, the distribution of E. coli. Today, he will share with us about the dry food matrices as source of infection with STEC, overview and example of risk assessment. Let's welcome the Dr. Goller.
So, hello everybody. Greetings from Berlin, Germany. I'm working, as already said, for the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment, and I'm the deputy head of the National Reference Laboratory for E. coli. At the BFR, we have several national reference laboratories. They are dealing with chemicals, with allergens, and also with food pathogens. And we are all more or less legislated by the European Union. And we're just a short overview. We are standing as a national reference laboratory. We are just standing between the regional control labs, the federal control labs, and the European reference laboratories. And for the pathogens, we're working with characterization, typing. We type the pathogens. We are also doing our own research, more or less. We are developing methods, and also we're working on standard procedures, which are really, really important. And our main focus is the risk assessment. And the good thing is that this risk assessment is completely independent from political and economical issues, and also independent from the risk management side. So we can only focus on research-driven risk assessment. And I would like to show some thoughts and some experiments, some results with you. And I also talked about the pathogens. And you might know that many pathogens or many bacterial species like Salmonella, Bacillus, or the Shiga toxin-producing E. coli, in short Aztec, are able to grow in matrices or foods where they have a high activity of water. When the activity of water or the AW value falls below a distinct value, the bacteria are no longer able to grow, but they might survive. So when you think of milk, fish, meat, then also this really delicious looking German snack called Mead, you have foods with a high water activity of 0.99. There the bacteria can grow if it's not stored properly. But when you then look on more dry matrices like tahini, wheat flour, other bacteria might survive, but they are not able to grow with it. When we think of flour and dough, you might look in the textbook, and then you may read the following, that the flour could contain salmonella, could contain coliforms, and could contain Escherichia coli bacteria. This is from a textbook from the year 2005. So it's quite old, I would say. And so you know that when you have learned this, that flour can contain salmonella, and even dough could contain salmonella even when eggs are used. So this is the knowledge from 2005. When we now switch to 2009, a few years later, this view changed a little bit, since we get a huge outbreak, or we get an outbreak of Shiga toxin-producing E. coli in the United States. In the beginning of the year, many patients were identified, which are infected by identical Shiga toxin-producing E. coli 0157H7. And in the beginning, it was not clear how they get infected. Later on this year, the official labs and the official they did a questionnaire, and then they found that cookie dough might be the vehicle, and then they identified it via some other questions and backtracking. But overall, with standard microbiological analysis, they were not able to identify the correct bacterial strain, but they are able to identify other Aztec bacteria inside the mill, and also in some unopened packages and in production side. So this was the starting point for our risk assessment. We know that there are some outbreaks in USA and Canada, which are linked to flours and doughs, and some studies conducted in Germany in some federal states showed that we even get Aztec positive flour there. So we started with our risk assessment. The risk assessment at all is a stepwise process. You start with the risk identification, hazard characterization, exposition, and then you switch to the risk characterization, and then you look on your quality of the data and on the uncertainty you have to face with. The outbreak of 2009 in the US was not the only one. Later on, we get some other outbreaks, more or less in the US. From 2009 to 2021, we get different outbreaks, mostly in Northern America, and all are linked to flour and or dough, which is mostly raw or unbaked. And this year, in the beginning of this year, we got in France an outbreak with frozen pizza. Also there you have an unbaked or uncooked product which contain Aztec. As I teased you already, we know that in Germany we have a high that Aztec were found in flour quite often. We get numbers from mostly 10% in the year 2020. This showed that Aztec or Shiga-toxin producing E. coli are in flour, not only in Germany, but also in Austria, in Switzerland. That this is really a problem or could cause a problem. But I'm just talking about Aztec, a few slides. What is an Aztec? An Aztec or Shiga-toxin producing E. coli is a normal E. coli bacterium which contains a distinct toxin. This Shiga-toxin is the main virulence factor. And when the E. coli contains this Shiga-toxin, it could be classified as a Shiga-toxin producing E. coli, or an old word for it, old term for it is varotoxin producing E. coli. So this is not one bacterium, it's a group of bacteria. You have mostly over 500 serotypes, so distinct types of the most known or well-known one is the O157H7, and this whole group contains the Shiga-toxin as main virulence factors. Of course, when you have additional factors like bacterial adhesins or hemolysins, this can affect the clinical outcome and also the severity of a disease which is caused by an Aztec. When an Aztec causes clinical symptoms, it is more or less referred as an EHEC, enterohemorrhagic E. coli. This type of E. coli or Aztecs could be classified into or according to their risk profile in terms of how severe the disease is they are causing. You might come from E. coli which contains only Shiga-toxin and go up to a E. coli which contains a distinct type of Shiga-toxin plus some adhesins. There you have a high risk bacterium. According to the EFSA in 2020, all Aztec, so this means that all bacteria that contains Shiga-toxin are able to cause human disease. Of course, some will result in severe disease, some not, but all have the potential to cause human disease. So therefore, all Aztec has to be considered as pathogenic. So we know what the Aztec are doing. The problem or the thing is where they are coming from. Mostly they're coming from ruminants, mainly cattle, deer, some goats, some sheep, but we also find Aztec in birds, some predatory species, in rodents and insects and mussels. But the last ones are more or less seen as vectors. When you are infected with Aztec, or normally you just need so many bacteria to cause disease. Some outbreaks were even caused by less than 100 bacterial cells. And this is quite amazing in terms of biology, to just need 2 bacteria to cause a disease. This is pretty low. In Germany, just to give a short overview, we get in the year 2020 1,600 EHEC infections with 54 severe cases, so HUS cases. The most affected group are children below the age of 5. And in 2020, we also get 2 fatal cases. Most of these EHECs are not typable, so we can't use them for source attribution. That's really a pity. But this phenomenon is not linked to Germany. It's a worldwide phenomenon that most outbreaks are not really linked to a distinct food vehicle. In Europe, you have mostly 61% of outbreaks with unknown attribution. In the Western Pacific region, 69%. So many outbreaks are not linked to any food. And this is really a problem. And this, I think we can do it better. But we have to look what we know so far. We know that, of course, the animal-derived foods like beef and dairy are mostly causing the diseases in Europe, but also vegetables and grains and beans are causing disease in the Western Pacific region, also in Europe, when we stick to the grains and beans. When we look at the plant-based foods which are sent to our lab between the years 2015 and 2020, we saw that mostly 75% of all strains we got are linked to flour and flour-based products. Of course, we analyzed these strains, and we found a really high diversity of Aztec. So there's not one Aztec we can find in the flour in all cases, but there are several ones. We find, of course, the high-risk ones, but also some rare serotypes we did not see so much before. But when we looked where these serotypes are also reported, we found that some of them are reported with game meat, so meat from deer or from roe. And that might be a link we can look into in more detail. So when we now think of, we have the flour, which is contaminated with Aztec. The question is, how does the bacterium, the Shigetoxin producing E. coli, come into this product? One possibility is that we get a contamination on the field during the agriculture, where fecal material, manure, is used as a fertilizer. Then the grains or the crops are growing, they are producing then the grains, and we know that less than 1% of all wheat samples from the US contain Aztec, but the amount is pretty low. So we are talking about less than 4 mpn Aztec per 100 gram. But the Aztec can survive in wheat up to 44 weeks. And also the local climate has a massively impact on the outcome of these results and on the occurrence of Aztec on wheat. So when we then look at the process chain of flour in more detail, then we come from the harvesting and storage via the milling to the flour. And what happens in the mill? In the mill, there will be a distribution of a potential contamination through the different milling steps. like mixing, then you have the tempering, the conditioning and grinding. And via these steps, a potential contamination is just distributed. And in the end, you might have an Aztec contaminated flour. And there's one study from Canada which shows that a flour with 0.5 mpn per 100 gram can cause an outbreak. That's really, really a low number. To sum it up, we constructed two scenarios. One is that you have flour, baking mixes, or raw doughs, which are not intended for retail sale. There we have no evidence that the professional use will be process some kind of risk. The other scenario is that flour, baking mixes, and raw doughs are sold on retail. There, if you work properly, if you're working according to the recipes and manufacturer specifications, and also you use a good kitchen hygiene, then the risk of getting an EHEC infection or Aztec infection is very low. But when you're eating raw dough, then you are at risk, especially the young ones, the younglings. And the other thing is that in Germany, flour is generally not recognized as a potential source of contamination. Altogether, we get this BFR risk profile. There we showed that the general population is affected by Aztec in flour. Mostly the younglings, of course, or the ones with a weakened immune system are at risk. The impairment is possible, but according to the host factors and also on the type of Aztec you are infected with, you get no effect on your health, or you could develop a severe disease or a severe outcome. Then we checked the data which are used as a basis for our risk assessment, and we found that, well, we saw that many of the data is not existing or contradictory. But the good thing is that the consumer itself, or the consumers, they can control this situation. First, by avoidance of the products, or if they are able to use precautionary methods and measures. So good kitchen hygiene and so on. The uncertainty means that we know a lot about the Aztec itself, about the transmission to humans and how the disease propagates. We also know that Aztec is in flour, how it's distributed in wheat flour, but we do not know, we lack a lot of data on the pathways into flour, and also how the agricultural practices affect the outcome. Moreover, we have really not many data about the effectiveness of decontamination methods. And that's where we end up in 2020, and later on there are more reports coming out showing that when you have contaminated flour with different types of Aztec, it was showed that this Aztec was able to maintain a long time in this matrix. It can survive up to 40 weeks, but that the culturability of this strain drops really hard, so that in the end you have to use enrichment procedures to detect these strains. We also could show, or others could show, that cookie dough is also contaminated with Aztec, and that if the Aztec is there, it will remain there for a long time. But when you have flour, you may store it a long time, And it was shown that depending on the bacterial strain you have, when you store it at maybe 23 degrees Celsius, then you may get a 90% loss of cultivability of the strain within 2 to 9 days. So even via storage, the strain or the bacterial strains are decreasing in their cultivability. When you heat it up to maybe 55 degrees, 65 degrees, or even 70 degrees, you might be able to reduce the potential pathogen quite significantly. So one study showed that you need at least 7.1 minutes to have a 90% loss of cultivability when you heat up flour to 70 degrees. The problem is when you heat up flour, you may lose the baking properties of the product. So it's a little bit like a trade-off. But this long-term survival within flour of Aztec is heavily strain dependent. And also if the bacteria are pre-adapted, this might also affect the terminal inactivation. When you have dough, bacteria or the Aztec could survive inside dough more than 6 months when you store it at 4 degrees Celsius, or in a more liquefied way in muffin batter, then up to 90 days. But when you heat it up, just to say it, you fry it, you bake it, you may lose a lot of, or you can reduce a lot of contaminating agents significantly. You need half a minute at 70 degrees, not half a minute, so there's a typo, I'm sorry, 5 minutes at 70 degrees to have 90% loss of cultivability. And also if you bake the dough or the batter at temperatures over 180 degrees, you might lose 10 to the 5 CFU during the baking process. But you have to be sure that the dough contains no clumps and the heat have to penetrate the dough or the baking good quite uniformly. So now I'm mostly at the end. I will just sum it up for the last time. We know that flour is a natural product which contains different microbiota, including Aztecs. These Aztecs contain rare serotypes and also high-risk serotypes. And if they are there, they survive very long inside the dough or the flour. And they are there in a really, really low concentration. And this is a challenge to the official or standard methods. So we have to adapt these methods and also cope it with new sampling plans, etc. When you heat everything, when you bake it, when you fry it, then when the heat penetrates the good uniformly, this will be sufficient to reduce the pathogen load significantly and provides safe products. However, there's still a long road to go. We need to clarify the entry routes. We need also to check other flours than wheat flour, like rice flour, maize flour, or corn flour, and so on. And also we have to look at the behavior of the Aztecs during the process. Overall, I hope in the next few years we might improve our risk assessment, but actually a conclusive health risk assessment is not yet possible. Not yet, maybe later. So this is it from my side. If you want to connect with us, just scan the QR code and link to us. And now I would be happy and delighted to get your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. 大家有什么问题可以问一下？
So thank you for your presentation, Professor. We want to know if any questions.
Hello, Andrew. It's a great presentation. So I have a question. How do you think why the storage time would affect the thermal inactivation, like resistance of the E. coli?
Yeah, that's a really funny story. We are dealing a long time with it now. First of all, you have the temperature, and also the bacteria has to maintain a little bit of water to be active and also to resuscitate again. The thing is that many studies just doing cultural analysis, and I'm not really convinced that when we lose the cultivability, the bacteria are not there. They're not living. So it's well known that bacteria, or especially E. coli, can go into this VB&C, viable but not culturable state. And I think this would be also a point here. But I think when you have a long period of dryness, you will lose some of the bacteria, since many bacteria will resuscitate just randomly. And so it sucks if you just go via the time, you lose on a low level some bacterial cells. But I think it's not an option to just store it via 10 years or so, and then you get rid of all the astics in flour. But the real kinetics have to be elucidated in the future. I hope this answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, let's answer my question. So actually, I do have a comment on one of your summary. So you said that the heat treatment would sufficiently inactivate the E. coli in the cookie dough, but actually I did some experiment, and we found out that in the traditional thermal treatment, like the oven during the bakery, usually the cookie dough will kind of dry out before the center of the cookie dough get heat enough to reach the like a decontamination temperature. So usually, if we want to ensure like the center of the cookie dough like pasteurized, the outside of the cookie dough will crack. So it's not a really feasible way to pasteurize the cookie dough. And I think to control the pathogens in the ingredient, like a raw ingredient, is kind of much more important than using the baking process.
I completely agree.
At least the 30 process, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. We tested it with the 10-gram cookies. We bake it in a normally oven, which is available here in Germany in every electronic supermarket. And the thing is really that you have to be sure that the baking good is baked through, that you don't have a liquid inside, that the heat is penetrating the product. So you're reducing potential pathogens quite sufficiently. But of course, I agree that the challenges are in using pathogen-free matrices or pathogen-free goods for preparing these cookie doughs, especially then when it's used for raw consumption.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? No? So no further questions. Thank you, Professor, again.
Thank you for your excellent presentation.
The next speaker from Russian Academy of Science, Professor Eremin, share with us about cytotoxin contamination of fish, seafood, and water development evaluation of rapid immune tests. Welcome.
Thank you. I will switch on my presentation. Do you see my presentation?
Yeah, okay. Yes, it's okay.
Is okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, thanks for invitation to give my presentation to China International Food Safety and Quality Conference. So it's today, not 21, 27. Title for my presentation is Phycotoxin Contamination of Fish, Seafood, and Water, Development of Rapid Immune Tests and her Evaluation. So this research was made by me and my colleague. We are working in Department of Chemical Enzymology, Moscow State University, and also in the Research Center of Biotechnology, Russian Academy of Science. And this research funded by Russian Science Foundation. So, phycotoxin. Phycotoxin is a toxic compound, and a lot of seafoods contaminated with this toxin. It's complicated chemical structure, but it's very strong toxic compound. And we need a simple, quick method to detect this contaminant. Generally,
you don't have the slide?
No, I changed it like this.
Oh, no slide.
It's okay, it's second slide. Phycotoxin, toxic compound, okay?
Oh, okay, we can't see the slide.
Lilia.
没有关灯。
Lilia. Что-то слайды не хочет пока, не виден. I try to switch on. Да.
Здесь должно переключиться.
Do you see my second slide?
No. No slide.
It's first slide. So it's like title for my presentation and our information. So how to move to next slide? In my так.
На共享一下屏幕。
Надо поделиться, есть здесь?
同传，你跟他说一下共享屏幕。
Professor, can you please share your screen with us? You can share your screen. Professor, can you hear me?
Я выключу. Презентация. Ты показ никогда не снял. Я никогда не включал показ слайда. Do you see my first slide?
No, we can't see your slides.
Они отключены, что ли?
Только там теперь. Вот эти два экрана 20 минут.
Включить. Брать, вы... Вот они стоят.
Да, почему-то туда уходит.
Do you see my second slide?
No, no, we can't see our slides.
Yeah, just first slide.
First slide.
It's small.
I now try to switch on a second slide, like this. Second slide is okay?
It's too small.
Too small, yeah. How to
You can play slide.
Like this? It's better?
No.
No.
На весь экран сделать, на квадратный.
Какой квадратный?
Okay.
Now okay?
Yeah, I can see it. Keep going.
Okay, it's one of my, this is my second slide. You see, we must detect phycotoxin. Main phycotoxin, it's microcystin, acadic acid, and domoic acid. So we must detect these complicated chemicals in food, in seafood product. So generally, immunoassay method mostly used to detect this contaminant in seafood. Immunoassays, it's some special interaction between antigen and antibody to give immune complex. A lot of immunoassay format developed at this time. Mainly, it's enzyme linking immunosorbent assay. But also another method like lateral flow immunoassay, immunosensor, and fluorescence polarization immunoassay could be applied to detect toxic compound. It's clear?
Okay.
Okay, next slide. Traditional method for phycotoxin detection, it's a different kind of chromatography, high pressure liquid chromatography with mass MS detection. It's good method, but it's complicated and time consuming. And we need more simple and quick technique. Generally, it's immunoanalytical method for phycotoxin detection. Between, as I mentioned before, for immunoassay, mainly we use enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. It's high sensitive and specific method. But anyway, it's also need a time, around 2-3 hours for one performance for assay. Another method like immunochromatography assay or nickname like strip test assay, it's a principle of this method, lateral flow immunoassay. It's a separation technique in nitrocellulose membrane. Advantages for this technique, it's all reagent, it's ready for assay, and it's simple in procedure, quite quick, about 10-15 minutes. minutes to detection, and assay results could be estimated without any additional equipment. Visually, you could see and discriminate it's contaminated or not contaminated compound. In our laboratory, we develop lateral flow immunoassay to produce, and from beginning to the end, from obtain some like gold nanoparticles, like prepare nitrocellulose membrane coated with immunoreagent, and construct a full assembly strip test. Generally good for immunochromatography strip test, but it's like semi-quantitative method. And we try to improve sensitivity for this immunoassay method. It's several possibilities to improve sensitivity for method. Firstly, to use more high affinity antibody for this assay. And we also found we also could increase sensitivity for method if we use special label, special structure for gold nanoparticle, composition, share, size for these particles, which could improve sensitivity for lateral flow immunoassay. For example, we develop a sensitive fluorescence lateral flow immunoassay to detect microcystin. We could detect microcystin different format without amplification and some peroxidase amplification, second format, and this method amplification and concentration of immune reagent. So only use the same reagent, but use different label and enhancement for detection. We could improve sensitivity about one to order to improve sensitivity to detect microcystin LR. This method, developed method for microcystin, is very specific. We could detect only one, and another microcystin, which have near the same structure, not detectable by developed method. It is because we use a very high specific monoclonal antibody to detect microcystin LR. To detect microcystin in different sample, like shrimp, mussels, octopuses, we develop sample pretreatment, which homogenization, extraction, centrifugation, and analysis of residues in this sample. And we could detect microcystin LR in real seafood, and detection and near nanogram per gram, very low concentration we could detect, and the recovery for this method is high. It's about 100% for recovery. So it means this method quick and simple and precise. We also prepare some reagent to detect domoic acid. Domoic acid is also quite often contaminate seafoods. To develop this method, firstly, we obtain high affinity monoclonal antibody to domoic acid. We select some monoclonal antibody and develop ELISA technique and develop method for domoic acid detection. Lateral flow. Again, this sensitive method, and we could manipulate to improve sensitivity for this method, and we could detect domoic acid at level 60 nanogram per milliliter. It's real sample contamination with this. In seafood, we could detect in different seafood, and again, recovery for this method to detect domoic acid around 100%. And it's simple and quick technique. It's take only 10-15 minutes. Here, real sample preparation to detect domoic acid in seafoods and detect with good recovery, and total time for assay not more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and we could receive quite sensitive results. Moreover, we also could develop not only direct method to detect one toxin, we could detect two toxins, domoic acid and okadaic acid. After some optimization, we could simultaneously detect in one strip using two test zone, two chemicals. And this result recently was published, and 10th September this year published these results. More detail you could find in our recent paper in Micromachine MDPA journal. I also will talk today about another simple and quick technique, fluorescence polarization immunoassay. It's a simple and quick method, immunoassay, using some special detector, fluorescence polarization. Fluorescence polarization is some special phenomena to detect fluorescence signal, polarization for fluorescence. So if we use excitation light polarized, using one polarizer for excitation, and detect not total fluorescence, we detect component of fluorescence, so named vertical and horizontal. We use second polarizer for emitted light. So to detect fluorescence polarization, we use two polarizer and located this polarizer in parallel or perpendicular position, and we could measure two components of fluorescence, vertical and horizontal, and ratio difference and sum of these two components give so named fluorescence polarization value. Fluorescence polarization value could be calculated quickly, simply in several seconds. It's need to calculation, and this very important analytical signal which we use it to detect fluorescence polarization in assay. This phenomena, fluorescence polarization, was described many around 100 years ago. And what important, fluorescence polarization depends from some viscosity, temperature, some another constant, but more important, it's depend from molecule volume for fluorescence compound. Fluorescence compound, if it's small molecule, like fluorescent analyte with fluorescent label, it's a small molecule, fast rotated, and we will detect low fluorescence polarization signal. But if this molecule give an immune complex with specific antibody big protein, so this immune complex big in size, and it's more slowly rotation, and we will measure high fluorescence polarization. So directly measure fluorescence polarization, we could estimate size for our molecule. And this phenomena used for fluorescence polarization immunoassay. It's competitive immunoassay, competition, analyte which we must detect, and analyte with label to binding with antibody. So if we have high concentration analyte, we will have this analyte with antibody immune complex, and our tracer fluorescent label compounds will be free form. It's a low and will low fluorescence polarization. But if our mixture have high concentration, low concentration for analyte, we will detect high fluorescence polarization. So for fluorescence polarization, we must detect value for this fluorescence polarization signal, and we could estimate concentration. Performance for fluorescence polarization immunoassay very simple. We only add your sample in tube, add one reagent, fluorescent label compound tracer, add second reagent, it's a specific antibody, all component in solution, mix and measure. Total time for assay, not more than 1 minute. All reagent in solution and very quick detection, fluorescence polarization, and total time for assay several seconds or minutes. And use this phenomena, we developed fluorescence polarization immunoassay. It could be used, for example, in microtitration plate, and so 96 sample could be detected not more than 10 minutes. Method again, very simple. For example, for this format for assay, we take 10 microliter sample, add tracer solution, add antibody solution, mix and measure. It's very effective and quick method. Moreover, this method quantitative, using standard curve, we could calculate it quantity detect toxic compounds. And we try to do it to detection fluorescence polarization immunoassay to detect phycotoxin. Limitation for method, we need a special instrument. But instruments more and more available. For example, is a real portable instrument. It could be used in field condition and laboratory method, and not expensive. Its price for these instruments around $5,000 US. So it's not so expensive like chromatography technique, but this instrument give quite good results. And here, for example, our results to detect okadaic acid. Okadaic acid, it's one of phycotoxin toxic compounds, and we have a high affinity monoclonal antibody for okadaic acid and synthesize special fluorescent label tracer. It's complicated structure again, but it's quite easy to make it and possible to obtain standard curve and develop method for quantitative detection. Okadaic acid and detection limit around 10 nanogram milliliter. It's quite enough to detect real okadaic contaminated seafoods. It's like, from our point of view, fluorescence polarization immunoassay, it's quite good technique to detect toxic compound. As conclusion, I must say, in our research, we develop lateral flow immunoassay strip test to detect phycotoxin like microcystin LR, okadaic acid, and domoic acid, using different size and shape for label gold nanoparticles. For colorimetric detection, results is very easy and could be visually detected. But this method, quite sensitive, but it's semi-quantitative method. And more, we could develop fluorescence polarization immunoassay, which is a quantitative sensitive method for detect okadaic acid. Analytical characteristic of developed method, meet official regulation, easy for performance, sample pretreatment, and we could detect quickly and simply this contaminant. Thank you. It's near the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Professor. Any question? 现场线上的有没有问题啊？
Any question for Professor? The technology is developing quite quickly, and Professor has given us in detailed description about the rapid detection method. It's low cost, it has wide application. We still have several minutes left for question.
Okay.
No more question?
No question. Okay. So as conclusion again.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, good. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. 我们下一个也是今天最后的一个演讲。
Our next speaker and also our last speaker, and he's from the FDA, Dr. Donald Prater, and he's imported food screening in the Assistant Commissioner of Imported Food Safety from FDA. And his topic is imported food screening in the new era of smarter food safety, artificial intelligence, machine learning pilot. Dr. Prater, are you online? The time is
Yes,
yours.
I'm here.
Thank you. The
And-
floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And is it possible for someone to project my slides and advance them? If not, I can perhaps do it myself.
You can share the slide.
Doctor, could you please share the PowerPoint yourself? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
那个俄罗斯的教授把共享屏幕退出去，要不 FDA
And we may need to wait Professor from Russia to exit the screen, the screen sharing. Otherwise, Doctor, you may not be able to share the screen.
还在吗？
Professor Ermin, are you still there? Please exit the screen sharing function. Thank you. Professor Ermin?
好像上一个教授的 PPT 好像没有退出。
Professor Ermin from Russia has not exited, so we can't take back the control.
"怎么回事？现场主持连不上。好了。
Yeah, it's me. Yeah. Okay, I will try to how to how to screen remove. Maybe switch off from conference. Lil, I don't know how to как убрать на то, что я замешаю мою презентацию, то есть я ее выключу. Окей. Good. Он уже из Гонконга, оттуда звонит. Все нормально.
Okay, very good. Can you see my
好，
my
大
screen
家
now?
现在能看到我的屏幕了，是吗？
Yes, Doctor, we can see your screen now. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Well, greetings, everyone. It's nice to be with you at the China International Food Safety and Quality Conference. I'm Don Prater. I'm FDA's Associate Commissioner for Imported Food Safety, and I work in the Office of Food Policy and Response and help oversee the safety of that portion of the U.S. food supply that arrives from outside our borders, which is currently 15% of our total food supply and growing. Today, we live in a food wonderland with unprecedented diversity and availability of different kinds of food throughout the year. Different kinds of food from different places, processed, packaged in different ways, a fish taco, guacamole, or that exotic spice blend. It's a good chance that the major components were imported from outside the United States. In fact, every day, thousands of shipments arrive at our ports. Food arrives by land, by sea, rail, and also by air. Here are some statistics to help illustrate the challenge. In 2019, those shipments included 32% of our fresh vegetables, 55% of our fresh fruit, and a whopping 94% of the seafood that Americans love to consume. In the past 10 years, we've seen remarkable rise in the number of shipments reaching our borders. In 2019, FDA screened over 45 million shipment lines, about a third of which were food. Data scientists really love this problem. So there are hundreds of different foods packaged in dozens of different containers, can, a box, a bag, a pouch, from over 200 countries and territories, 125,000 different facilities and farms, thousands of entries each day, over 40,000 shipment lines per day, through 300 ports of entry, with only minutes or seconds or even milliseconds to make each decision, each entry decision. Where's the unsafe fish? Where's the container with the rotten tomato? How do I find a jar of sauce that could make me or my family sick? The challenge is really enormous. Okay, so what data do we have to help us find the unsafe fish? I said there's millions of shipment lines, each with its own set of entry information. That's the information provided by the shipper. What is it? Who's sending it? Where is it coming from? How is it arriving, by truck or train or plane or ship? And for each shipment, we can start to associate information in our FDA systems. What's the compliance history of the firm? Have they had problems before? Have we visited their facility? Have we examined their products or taken a sample for testing? We know that certain products have associations with particular hazards, cyclospora in fresh vegetables, pesticide residues on fruit, or histamine in decomposing fish. And beyond our internal databases, there's a rapidly expanding amount of external open source intelligence, like audit reports from regulators, genomic sequences of pathogens, and all manner of different data sources that we can potentially utilize. Putting these data to use to accurately and efficiently find violative products is how we protect public health. What we need to do, therefore, is translate that enormous amount of data and information into highly accurate and efficient targeting. About 10 years ago, when it became apparent that the volume of imports was challenging our traditional models for selecting which shipments to pull out for examination and sampling, FDA developed our predictive risk-based evaluation or dynamic import compliance targeting. That's a lot, and so we use the acronym PREDICT. The PREDICT tool was developed for import screening. Predict is a sophisticated, rules-based engine with automated lookups that are linked to FDA databases that generates a risk score for every shipment coming into the United States. These risk scores help our entry reviewers determine which shipments need further scrutiny. Relative to other systems currently in use across the world, Predict is considered to be among the best and is often held up as a model by our regulatory counterparts. So what does imported food screening look like in the future, in the new era of smarter food safety? Well, we think it will harness new and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning as part of predictive analytics. It will be able to utilize structured and unstructured data. And as the food supply becomes increasingly digitized, import screening may become interoperable with enhanced traceability systems that are used, such as distributed ledgers or blockchain or other types of new approaches. So as you've probably already surmised, we think artificial intelligence and machine learning in particular hold much promise in being able to turn the massive amounts of data FDA receives from a challenge into an opportunity. Understanding the relative risks of different products and shipments in a dynamic setting will help us to allocate our resources more accurately to have the best chance of finding that unsafe fish by examination and sampling. And machine learning has a number of characteristics which make it particularly suitable for leveraging all that data and information to address the challenge of import screening. For example, the accuracy and efficiency of AI machine learning models improves as more and more data are processed. A considerable amount of the data that we have are structured data, but AI machine learning models may also allow us to examine unstructured data, like digital images and video, and large text fields. Harnessing supercomputing power to provide rapid analysis of big data in dynamic settings, such as screening at ports of entry, will enhance the work of our entry reviewers and allow us additional opportunities to automate portions of the process. This is something we already do, but we want to do it to a greater extent. And this helps us to make admissibility decisions quickly and accurately, speeding safe products on their way. Machine learning also, quite famously, has the potential to identify patterns and associations which may not be readily apparent with current technology. And finally, and also importantly, with anticipated increases in computing power and decreases in computing costs, an AI machine learning system can potentially become more cost efficient over time. So for all these reasons, one of the first initiatives we identified when we launched the new era of smarter food safety in April of 2019 was a pilot program to put our data to use, to demonstrate the possibility to apply an AI machine learning model to import screening. In particular, to examine that commodity we import so much of from all over the world, seafood. Such a pilot would leverage our existing databases and could take advantage of nearly 10 years of experience with our rules-based engine, Predict. With historical data available to train the model, including the outcomes of our examination and sampling, and the challenge of dynamic, near real-time data coming in through our ports of entry, we thought this is a perfect test environment. So what are we doing? We developed and executed a proof of concept using historical data and sample results. And while the proof of concept had some limitations, it did show some very promising results and provided valuable insights for developing a more refined model that we can take to the next step, an operational field pilot. We encountered some of the familiar challenges with AI machine learning models. For example, integration of databases, minimizing sources of bias that could impact our assessment of the results, and identifying modifications in data infrastructure that may be necessary to work in real time. We are also in the process of evaluating other operational considerations. For example, how to incorporate an AI machine learning model into our entry review processes. Because the entry review process is ultimately executed by our highly trained staff, how can the results be integrated into their workflow and into their decision-making process? And importantly, we need to consider the implications for public health. We have a good track record of making good decisions, and we need to make sure that it stays that way. Another important consideration for implementing an operational pilot involving AI and machine learning is the speed at which goods are flowing through ports of entry. We needed to carefully examine the parameters of the pilot to avoid any disruption in the flow of goods. And finally, we aim to develop and execute the pilot for import screening in a way that allows us to take advantage of these learnings and apply them to other FDA-regulated products, those other 30 million lines of shipments that are screened every year. So in February of 2021, we launched the second phase of our pilot, which ran for 5 months through July of that year. Following the completion of the initial proof of concept, we refined the model, the machine learning algorithm. We also wanted to conduct this phase of the pilot in the field under real-world conditions of entry review. So in order to take this project to the field, we had to develop a user interface for our entry reviewers. We also had to acquire hardware and build a supercomputing infrastructure. We had to advance the integration of our databases into something that could work dynamically. Remember, the proof of concept was conducted using historical databases. We also had to define operational parameters for collecting and taking samples. And while I can't share a lot of the operational specifics, I can share that we ran the AI machine learning model and the predict system together, and we took great care to ensure that there was no diminution, no reduction from a public health standpoint in our oversight. In other words, the entry reviewers had all the information previously available from predict, in addition to having more information available from the AI machine learning model. At the same time, we also carefully considered the operational aspects that would support the pilot without disrupting the flow of goods. The second phase of the pilot was successful. We ran the AI machine learning model simultaneously at 328 ports of entry and delivered sample recommendations within seconds. We're still reviewing the data on the predictive capacity of the model, and we plan to communicate our results at the conclusion of the pilot. More recently, we launched the third phase of our pilot. This phase builds on the previous two phases under the new era of Smarter Food Safety Blueprint and is a program that seeks to reduce the number of foodborne illnesses by leveraging technology to create a more digital, traceable food system. That's the new era of Smarter Food Safety. In the third phase of our pilot, we designed this to improve the agency's ability to quickly identify imported seafood products that may be contaminated by illness-causing pathogens, decomposition, and the presence of unapproved antibiotic residues, as well as other hazards. So in the third phase of the pilot, we focused on particular sets of hazards for seafood products, like microbiological contamination, decomposition, and antibiotic residues. We began this pilot in August of this year, and we hope that this will help determine the feasibility of deploying in-house AI models using intelligence that the FDA extracts from data that we are collecting from millions of lines of import. So we're currently running this pilot. We intend to run it for several months into next year, and we will report out on some of the results at the conclusion of the pilot. But the third phase is very exciting, in particular because it starts to focus on particular hazards and leverages some of our in-house AI machine learning models. So, in summary, import screening is a big job at FDA. Whether it's unsafe fish or other unsafe products that are presented at our borders, we believe new technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning and other approaches to predictive analytics will allow FDA to put data to use. Data is at the heart of FDA's work as a science-based agency, and this initiative is just one example of how we anticipate ongoing rapid increases in the amount and complexity of data to inform FDA's regulatory decision-making process and help us to advance our public health mission. Thank you very much, and I'm pleased to answer any questions that I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And any question? 现场的有问题吗？
Any questions from the audience? No question. Or questions from online audience?
No.
No question? We still have some time left, and you're welcome to propose your questions. No question from online.
Thank you, Dr. Prater. There's no more question.
Thank you, Dr. Prater. There is no more question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we have concluded all the agendas in today's session, and thank you very much, dear experts and dear professors, for your sharing. And I hope that next time we can meet face to face. Thank you. Since there is no question, we have concluded all the sessions today, and you may leave. And thank you very much for participation. Thank you. See you next time.